like between the sound of the Stax, Booker T and MGs, and then the Memphis Boys, which were the American guys, like, I mean, you won't ever recreate that. I think that, like, you know, the way that me and Luther and Cody and Steve all make music together has a sound for sure, but how that's applicable in terms of cranking out a bunch of records that are going to be seen in the annals of history, I don't know that that will ever happen again, and I do long and romanticize for that to be true, but you can't go back in time. I mean, at this point, I'm just trying to look forward and see what's going to happen next, which for me, it's a, you know, I don't know why things wound up being the way they are. I think it's because the major corporate labels were always chasing the dollar, and it's just gotten more and more gentrified. And, I mean, if you played bass the way that Tommy Cogbill or, let's say, James Jamerson, who was the Motown bass player, played on if you played the way they played most every session back then, on a session today, you'd get kicked out of the studio. Because the way they played was so colorful and creative, and it was so much a part of it. And now, if you play a session in Nashville or whatever, it's like, I mean, you know, like that's, I don't know, it's changed. The sound of the music has changed. And I really, you know, it's funny, man, I'm caught in between two things. One is reading what Miles Davis said in his wonderful book, Miles, which is that even for him, you know, as he invented more and more new music, he would say that, you know, people would want him to go back and play straight ahead jazz. And he would often say, man, that was like, to him, the thought of that was like going to his grandfather's closet and grabbing an old suit from like 30, 40 years ago and trying to put it on. It was all musty and funky and it looked like out of style. It's just not the right thing to do, you know? And to some degree, that's how I feel too about even the old music, even that I love and worship. By the same token, I cover all that old music and still study it and learn it, and it's my favorite music, and I can't really listen to much modern music. So there's, it's just a dichotomy. It's easy to get lost in that, but that's just being too cerebral about it. I often have to tell myself, because really all you can do is just play, write what you feel from your heart, you know. Try to draft it and edit it so that it's not too sappy or, you know, unwell thought out, and that's also true of the musicality, you know. There's an editing process there it's got to be emotional first and foremost, but it's also got to be refined, you know. And I think that those are things that I learned from that older time that we'll never touch. But hopefully the music will still sound fresh and current.
Yeah. But as far as music being made in Memphis now, like obviously you've worked with a lot of different people around town. And I think that it's definitely not for lack of talent, the reason that Memphis isn't thriving again. So what would you think, like if, from your experience, what would you say that Memphis needs more of, or maybe less of even?
It needs, you know, I mean, I'm a Memphis lover, and I think that the whole, like, I love, you know, Midtown is Memphis, and I love Memphis and all that stuff. It's great, but I also think it's an empty promise without real things being done. There's too much back-patting, self-congratulatory stuff, and I think there's too much focus on the wrong stuff. But that's speculative and subjective, and that's my taste, so it's not fair for me to say that. I can't say much of what I really think, because I don't want to get in trouble with people who are my friends and people who I do respect, but that I think maybe are going about things wrong. There could be so much better allocation of resources in terms of helping musicians accomplish their goals. And, you know, if you look at, like, certain programs like the Canadians have and other, like, European countries that actually subsidize musicians to, like, sort of tour, record, and fulfill their dreams. If Memphis is really, like, a mecca where, like, I mean, undeniably, it's still a wellspring. And great things are still going to, like, the next new thing will probably be born out of some ideas that happen here, you know? It could be those young kids, the Star Killers. Like, I don't know what, it could be anything. Hopefully it'll be something I don't understand. And it's always supposed to be that way, you know? But, and that's just part of me getting old and curmudgeon-y, you know? Like, hopefully it will be that way. I hope it is. But these kids, man, are going to need resources that, you know, aren't available, but are being spent on, like, some stupid stuff that I don't even want to talk about. I don't want to sound bitter, I'm grateful. You know, there's some things that I think that the state of Beale Street is. I mean, you can't blame the bar owners and the club owners. They're gonna chase the money.
Yeah.
You know, Jim often said, you know, it's a neon liquor / beer mall, Beale Street, and you know his whole concept of why it was torn down, really heavy stuff that you know, like just felt like they tore down everything along like Martin Luther King's march and like all that kind of stuff, like all that stuff, like he had some heavy concepts about all that, and maybe I don't know or believe in. Really, I'm not. You should edit that out because I'm not well spoken enough to say that.
Mm-hmm.
But what it is now is not a home of the blues. Like you can't really go there and find much blues. You can find people playing cover music, and you know, it's just I don't know, man. I don't know.